Well, it's a brand new month. Here we are in December.
Through my favorite holiday.
Oh, Thanksgiving was
Thanks,
awesome.
Baby K's. Oh, my God. The deep fried turkeys, what a bomb.
More on that later on in the show, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
More on Thanksgiving. It'll come up later in the show, too. I'm glad you had a good one.
Did you have your 150 people over?
It's more on that.
Okay.
Still to come on this edition
I can't
of
believe
the Steam
my man
Room.
got that many friends.
It's Ernie Johnson and it's Charles Barkley. Thank you very much for swinging by, hanging with us for an hour or so.
Yes.
And how are you? Everything good?
Man, everything is good. You know, Thanksgiving is over. Got 3 weeks before hell breaks loose, so I'm in a good place. Getting excited. You know, I got to give Adam Silver credit. This cup thing, man. The Emirates Cup has been a success last year, and it's looking good this year. And
a little more early season excitement.
Yeah, it does. It does.
For sure.
Got to be careful with my list today, though, Ernie.
All right. It is, first of all, with Charles Barkley.
Got to be careful because I got egg, salt, mouthwash, peroxide, and Staples on here. I got to make sure
So you need some Staples or you need to go to Staples?
I need to go to Staples to get me a big calendar.
Oh, again? Oh, we've been through
Ernie,
this.
I don't keep stuff on my phone.
We've been through this.
It's easy. Every time you walk through the kitchen, you can look through all the crap you got to do for the month.
I know.
I'm not going to keep stuff in my phone.
Here's what I find disturbing.
What's that?
Not the calendar,
What's that?
but the fact that you're combining your first of all list with your to-do list.
I didn't want to carry 2 pieces of paper.
Oh, I know. You want a big old calendar.
I did not.
But
you
can't carry 2 pieces of paper.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
All right. So, you know, I mentioned on the show last week, but I want to do it again and give my best to Mouse and the late, great Rudy Marsky, man. One of the great reporters, USA Today back in the day. If he says something good about you, it was great. If he says something bad about you, you can start packing your stuff up. But I got to know him and Mouse over the years, and just rest in peace, Rudy Marsky. Good dude. Rivalry weekend. Ernie?
I'm glad you're going here.
Let me tell you something. The Georgia Tech game was the best game I've seen all year.
Yeah.
And
8 overtimes.
8 overtimes. As much stress as you can put on anybody. I actually felt bad for Georgia Tech and their coach. Man, I like their coach a lot. I felt bad for him because I want to give Kirby Smart some love because the way he hugs him and embraced him,
that was
powerful.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because that was a tough loss for Georgia Tech. You could see Kirby in that moment has so much humanity. I've always had respect for Kirby. He's an awesome dude. But in that moment, I'm like, wow, man, that's what sports.
That was heartfelt.
That was heartfelt.
Yep.
But, you know, Alabama and Auburn, hey, we had a rough year. Alabama had a decent year. Well, they had a bad year up to their standard. That's why I hate them. They think it was a bad year. They lost 3 games. They lose 3 or 4. Let's hope for 4. But Michigan and Ohio State. Hey, man, y'all can't do that after the game. Y'all had 3 hours to fight. You had 3 hours to fight. You can't get mad if somebody put the flag on your field. Is it bad taste?
It happened all over the place, Chuck.
I know.
And it shouldn't.
Ernie.
Come on.
It should not happen, but if the team wins, they get to do what they want to do. Is it in bad taste? 100% it's in bad taste. But when somebody – listen, that's what makes rivalry special.
Yeah.
I will admit it's in bad taste. I'll be the first to admit that.
But you know how you take care of that?
3 hours before.
Win your home games.
When's your home game?
Well, I just don't want I don't want one of these things spilling out and getting really, really,
I don't
really
want
nasty.
anybody getting hurt. And I like I say, I admit again, it's in bad taste. But you had 3 hours, Ohio State. You had 3 hours. They beat you 4 years in a row. So that really bothered me.
Did it happen in Florida FSU as well?
Yeah. And I don't even know.
NC State.
In North Carolina.
North Carolina.
I don't even know why Florida State and Florida are fighting. 2 ugly girls fighting? Who cares who wins?
Arizona State. It happened
my God, that was a beatdown.
But they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to say before something regrettable really happens, they're going to have to say, hey, look, this flag planting stuff's got to stop.
But you know how you stop that? the other team win the game and you put the flag down on their field, they'll stop quickly. If you just win the game, you can do what you want to. Hey, so I was watching CNN because I try to support CNN. You know, I like the people who work there. Jake Tapper, Philadelphia guy.
Wolf Blitzer.
I love me some Wolf Blitzer. John King.
Right.
Caitlin Collins. She's awesome. She went to Alabama, but won't hold out against her. They spent the whole day talking about this Hunter Biden thing yesterday, and it just annoyed the hell out of me. They're talking about, you know, they put these Republicans and Democrats on there, and they talk about for hours how he lied and he pardoned his son. President Trump did the same thing 4 years ago. It just annoys me. Man, these politicians don't care about us American people. They do what they want to do. We're just fools in a chess game. Whoever it is, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, I've been telling y'all for years, both of these parties suck. They don't care about us as people. They want your vote so they can get in there and do what they want to do behind closed doors. But this notion that who pardon things like that, CNN, man, y'all just be wasting y'all time. Y'all spent the last year talking bad about Trump. That people don't care. They're going to vote for that dude because they want to. But, man.
Well, I think what they're bringing up most there, Chuck, too, when they talk about it is that President Biden had said, no, I'm not going to pardon him. And then it was repeated at the press conference with his press secretary. Yeah, I'm not going to pardon him. And then it's, you know.
But they all pardon crooks at the end. It's not even every president.
Were you surprised that this happened?
No. But I just love the fact they make such a big deal out of it and have these talking heads on television. Man, these politicians don't care about what we think. They're going to do what they want to do. But that was just a waste of 24 hours yesterday.
You got to talk. Yeah, you got 24 hours to
trying to figure out some of these boneheads he's putting in the cabinet. That's what we should be talking about.
Well, you only got 24 hours.
I mean, geez Louise. This is a who's who. Damn. I actually think President Trump is punking us. I really do. Some of the people he's put in the cabinet, he says, I'm just going to pick random people. just to piss you all off. That's what I think he's doing. I truly believe that. But, man, hey, I told you, I'm not going to talk bad about the president. I wish him the best. Hope he does good stuff because he's the president of the United States of America, and we're all Americans.
What else is on that list for first of all? Anything, or is that it?
Make sure I get my peroxide. I need that.
Now, why do you need peroxide?
I soak my teeth in peroxide. I put peroxide in my mouth twice a day just to keep it clean.
Do you really?
I do.
Is that advisable?
Yes.
Are you taking that on the advice of a dentist?
The dentist actually,
I think if you look on that bottle, it'll probably say
no,
would not recommend.
No, because the dentist uses peroxide mouthwash.
But what do you are you taking this brown bottle of peroxide and doing this?
Yes, of course I am.
Oh my gosh, Chuckster.
I do that before I brush my teeth. I do it twice a day.
What else is on that list?
I got to give me some hard-boiled eggs because that's what I'm eating for breakfast right now. And I get some salt. You know, I put in a cup with salt and pepper. That's breakfast. Shake it up a little bit.
Well, if you're going to eat a bunch of hard-boiled eggs, go ahead with the peroxide. We're going to take a break here on the Steam Room. Ben Stiller.
Oh, I can't wait.
What a great guest to have.
Yes.
He's got a lot of stuff going on, man. He's working on a lot of stuff, and he's keeping an eye on the New York Knicks.
Oh, that's just pride and joy, the Knicks.
Much to talk about with Ben Stiller. I bet he doesn't gargle with peroxide or whatever you do.
I'm just telling you, it's good for you.
Welcome back inside the Steam Room, folks.
This is going to be awesome today.
This is because this is a guest we've been trying to connect and find a time that works, and now the time is working. You've seen this guy in a million movies. You've seen him at a million Knicks games.
That's where I want to start today.
Okay.
Introduce him.
Our guest today is Ben Stiller. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate you taking 3 hours out of your day. It's very nice.
Oh, whoa. Wait a minute. Listen, I'm happy to be here. You know, I'm a big fan of you guys. I love this show for years and years. And I mean, we should talk about the Knicks though.
We're going to get to the Knicks
Charles.
for sure.
Well, you said you wanted to start there.
Well, no, because I want to start because Ben, Jack Nicholson, Billy Crystal, Spike Lee, I can count the fans, like the superstar fans, who like always have supported their team through good times and bad times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially when you're dealing with New York and Hollywood, fans only show up when the team is doing good. But when you look at Billy Crystal, I've said this before, he's my all-time favorite. When the Clippers sucked, he was there every time we played the Clippers. Spike and Ben and Jack Nicholson, whether the Lakers were great or bad, they've always been there. So that's one of the reasons I was excited to have him on the podcast today.
Do you have a question for our guest, or are you just going to ramble?
So, it's interesting trying to talk to regular fans about New York. But as a guy who played there and a guy who, when we broadcast their game and they're doing well, it's like night and day, the excitement in that arena and around that city when the Knicks are doing great.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because most of the games I've gone to in my life have been at Madison Square Garden, So, there's always that feeling, even when the Knicks, I mean, look, there have been some really, really tough years, obviously, but there's always excitement at the Garden. I remember when I was working on a movie in Atlanta, probably, I don't know, like 10, 12 years ago, probably more, The Watch, and I went to a Hawks game, and it was just a totally different vibe. I mean, I've never gone to college games too, which I hear are insane, but Knicks games, like, right now at the Garden, it's so exciting.
Huge game against the Orlando Magic. As we speak, it's hours before tip-off there because we're talking about that Emirates NBA Cup, and they're playing for the group tonight against the Magic.
Can you guys explain? Can you explain the Emirates Cup to me?
Ben, please don't ask that question.
I actually could. Here, let me throw something at you because we're going to talk about this tonight. Okay. So, look, if you win tonight, you win your group, and then you get into the knockout round. Okay. If you lose tonight,
right? But the Knicks are already they're like 2-0 or 3-0.
No, you're 3-0. You and the Magic are both 3-0.
Right, but that means nothing if we lose tonight.
Yeah, because if you lose tonight, you're out. Because it goes down to tiebreaker. Because Boston is like a plus 23, plus 25, and you guys are plus 15. You lose tonight, there's no way by the point differential that you would make it.
I feel like you're trying to take my money from me or something the way you're talking to me. I don't understand anything you're saying.
No, I know. And a lot of fans I don't think do either. But but that's what it is. You need to win. If you win tonight, then you're into the knockout round.
Yeah. And I think it's, look, it's obviously a thing to make, this part of the season more exciting. I think I was, I went to the Knicks game, the last game, and I was actually talking to Rick Brunson after the game. He said that they're actually psyched for it. They're excited for it. Especially the coaches are really excited for it.
Yeah, because it's in Vegas. That's why. That's because it's in Vegas. Everybody wants a trip to Vegas.
Yeah, but you're still going to have to win next week to get to Vegas. That's the deal. You don't go to Vegas if you win your group.
Oh, you don't?
No, you got to have that knockout round.
Okay.
And we're getting really deep into the weeds there anyway. But yeah, this is the vibe you talk about being at the Garden, and it's also, I mean, it's who you're seen there with and who you may be sitting with at the game. I mean, is there also business being done when you're at a Knicks game? Because I see it with a lot of your colleagues.
Yeah, sometimes every once in a while, I'll go to a game with somebody like who like an executive or something like that, and it's really not for me as much fun as when I go with someone who's just like a huge fan, because people get access to those seats sometimes who don't know anything about basketball.
Yeah.
And that drives me crazy when they're like on their phone or, you know what I mean? Or they're not appreciated, because to me, sitting in like courtside at an NBA game is one of the most exciting things you can do. It's just, it never loses its luster for me. And especially if you're watching with somebody who's really into it, then it's really fun. For me, the most exciting thing is sometimes I get to sit right next to where Mike Breen and Clyde are calling the game, which is great because sometimes you can overhear them a little bit, because I really missed that, because I love, those two to me are like the greatest, so to hear them call a game and be there is really fun.
Twofold question. What has been the highest you ever been at a game, And the lowest you've been at a game?
Man, I was at that recently last year. The Philadelphia series. When Dante DiVincenzo hit that shot, that was
that was incredible.
I think it was a game 2. Yeah, I think that was amazing. I mean, the energy there was just insane, And I was there with my son, and I was like, this is like a moment we're going to remember for the rest of our lives. The lowest was probably the last game of that series, when they lost. I mean, recently, the recent stuff is what you feel the most, but there's nothing like when the Knicks, when finally it's the end of the road. But also there was 19 whatever or 2001 to 2013 to 19.
That's exactly right.
It's a dead heat there.
Yeah, or 2020. I mean, so it's been a rough time, but you don't choose who you're a fan for, Charles. I think it's I'm just always going to be a Knicks fan. I think the longer you stay with it, the more you appreciate it when things start to go well. I think and everybody's so appreciative right now that it feels like there's a good vibe in the locker room. I look around at other teams in the NBA, and you hear certain things. You go, okay, well, at least maybe we don't have it all totally together, but we have there's so many great things happening, and I feel like we're on the right path.
Hey, so are you a baseball fan?
I used to be more of a baseball fan. Now I'm a casual where I'll check in, for the playoffs. But I used to be a Yankees fan big time when I was a kid. I was there when Reggie hit the 3 home runs. World Series, I would storm the field with my buddies. I had a piece of right field that I took home on the D train that I had in my room for 2 years that my mother made me throw out. So I definitely was into it.
So that's my question. I've always wanted to ask a New Yorker this. How do you choose between the Yankees and the Mets?
You're asking the wrong guy because I like both the Yankees and the Mets, but a true Yankee or Mets fan will tell you that's impossible. And I think isn't Mike Breen, I think, is a huge Mets fan. He's a huge Mets guy, and I don't think he could deal with the Yankees at all. I might be wrong there, but I think so. For me, it was the Yankees just had that run in the 70s, and I was so into it. And I was a Thurman Munson fan, and I was a Reggie Jackson fan, and I had them up on my wall. It was no question. But, it's interesting because, there's no, between the Knicks and the Nets, for me, there's not even a question.
Hey, going back to your Knicks fandom as you were growing up. So who are the guys that you will never forget, most memorable Knicks? And what are the things you'll never forget about growing up and nurturing this love of that team?
For me, it goes back to going to games with my dad. My dad used to take me. He had friends. We weren't season ticket holders, but he had friends who were season ticket holders. And these two guys, Freddie and Stan, used to sit in the 8th row behind the Knicks basket, and they knew everybody. They were deli owners. They were New York Jewish Knick fan, it's just the core thing, and they knew all the refs, and they would yell at the refs. And then one day they took me and they introduced me to Phil Jackson. This is 73, maybe 74, under the basket. I remember meeting him, that team, seeing that team play. I was 8 in 73. And then over the years, I was a huge Bernard King fan. In the late 80s, there was a guy, Mike Glenn, who played on the Hawks for a long time.
A friend of mine, yeah. He's of all of ours.
Yes.
Great dude.
Yeah. What was his nickname?
The Stinger.
The Stinger.
Yeah.
And I was the guy, I'd be yelling at Red Holtzman, put Glenn in. And my dad would always laugh because I was so into it. And he was a great shooter. In today's game, he would have, I forget how his defense was, but in today's game, he would have really, played an important part.
Ben, you're from one of the most famous families in showbiz history. Your mom and dad are legendary. Let me ask you a question. Did you always want to go into the family business, or did you ever try anything else?
I never tried anything else. I always wanted to make movies since I was a kid. I had a Super 8 camera, and I was making home movies and hanging out with my parents whenever they worked on a set. So for me, I knew a movie maker was what I wanted to be. And my parents were more comedians at the time. But then I sort of, when your parents do something, you don't think it's cool. But then as I got a little bit older, I started to watch comedy, and I found my own comedy people that I looked up to. And now looking at it, it's funny because like my kids both want to be actors too. My daughter's an actress. She just graduated from drama school. My son's in college, and they have their own thing. And it's funny because you with your parents, it's sometimes you can't appreciate what they do until you're older sometimes. And right now I'm actually working on a documentary about my parents, and it's interesting to kind of look back on our family because it was always about working and creativity. And my parents worked together. They were a comedy team. So they were always writing and creating around the house. And it was our lives. It was our lives. So I never really thought about doing anything else.
Yeah, because and we're talking about Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira. And,
yes.
And this is like, so was it hilarious around your house all the time? Or was it just, hey, this is just the way, or like when you went to friends' houses and say, man, it's not funny here at all.
Well, again, it's your parents. So, you don't, my parents, sometimes it was funny. Sometimes they were working. So they were like kind of busy, and like sometimes it could be, kind of a little bit, not tense, but like, they were getting ready to do the Ed Sullivan Show. And there's, 30 million people who watch the Ed Sullivan Show, and they had to get invited back. So there was that feeling. But my dad was just like, as funny as people know him on Seinfeld, and he was he had two sides. He was very, very, he was such a sweet, generous person, very spiritual guy, kind of quiet at home, but then he had these crazy characters and things he would do. And it was, I don't know. I love my folks, and they worked together so well. Very different people. My mom was, I think, more of a, she loved to write and to read. And you know what? Comedy people aren't necessarily the funniest. I don't know if you know other people in this world, but like, you know what I mean, right? Not always.
Ben, let me tell you something. I've been around famous comedians. They're the most boring. First of all, they got weird personalities. They're like shy. I'm not gonna call it a name. Exactly. They're you're like, is he gonna be funny or say something?
There's a lot of pressure to be funny all the time.
No, but it's like they have an alter ego when they're on stage.
Right.
And I'm talking about,
for sure,
two of the most famous comedians I've ever been around are the most quiet.
And you're not going to name any names.
I'm not going to name any names. Well, I'll tell you. Chris Rock, Chris Rock and Eddie Murphy, two legends, are two of the most quietest individuals I've ever been around. Like, you have to pull that, like, you have to make conversation with them. And they're both two of the greatest ever. It's an honor and a privilege. We're not friends. I've only met Eddie one time. I met Chris several times. But they are so quiet and reserved. You're like, man, I thought this dude was going to have me stitched up laughing the whole time.
Yeah, no, I worked with Eddie once, and I think I felt the same way in that I was intimidated because I was such a fan of his too. But I kind of liked that because I understood that he just kind of like does his thing. But, when you're working like that, it's also sort of like, you get into whatever mode. And Chris and I are friends. And the thing about Chris is, I think also, when he does say something, it's always so sharp and insightful. He always has a way of distilling ideas down. And we actually go to Knicks games a lot together. And, he'll always make me laugh, but it's not like this unfunny thing, quote unquote unfunny. And I've always felt that too, and never felt that like that's kind of who I am. And I think that's just sort of part of, the like when I watch you guys on television, you are able to kind of have this version of yourselves that we feel like we're with you. And it's you, and and I think sometimes with funny people, there's an expectation. Okay, they're supposed to be funny, and you guys are funny, but it comes out of like this sort of natural, sort of just relating to the audience, and that's something honestly I really admire about both of you. And Charles, like how you always speak your mind, and you make a difference for so many people when you speak out about things, and you have a way of relating to people on such a real level that I really appreciate.
So let me ask you this question. You talked about your kids both want to go into the family business. As you being you, it's a slippery slope. You're like, I sure hope they ask me a question before they do something like this. Or you're like, hey, maybe you should, because I've been through that. How do you walk that fine line with your kids, like staying back but trying to help them?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to kind of read the room a lot with and kind of both my kids are very different, so I think it's about trying to give them space, support them the way that I was supported by my parents. But my parents were different too. My mom had a different attitude towards me doing what I did than my dad did, and I step in it a lot of the times with my kids, or I'll say the wrong thing, but I also just try to let them experience what they're going to experience for themselves. Say my piece, say, okay, if you want to have my point of view on this, but you have to go through these things on your own. You have to make mistakes on your own. You have to deal with the good and the bad of show business on your own, the rejection, like we all know how tough that part of it is. I imagine in sports, it's even harder, but you got to allow your kids, the chance to experience it themselves. And then if they want to come talk about it, I talk about it with them, but it can be tough sometimes because you know what's out there,
What's interesting when there's a piece of you that surfaces when we are watching ball games around the house, or I have the kids over with their kids, and we got a game on, and it's a Zoolander line that always comes up, no matter what sport is on. My son will come in and say, "Who's winning the match?" And so it's like it's amazing to me the lines from movies that just stick with you and for ages now. It's anybody in our family, if a game is on, I say, "Who's winning the match?" And so part of my question here is, like, it looks like you're having so much fun in whether it's Zoolander, whether it's Meet the Parents, whether it's dodgeball. Look, I know movie making is difficult, but it looks like is it always fun? Is it just a blast for as long as it takes to make that movie?
I mean, it's not always fun, but you have to kind of create, because they're the mechanics around it sometimes that are, like the time pressure. You have to get a scene done in a certain amount of time, especially if you're directing too. But you have to create enough space around what you're doing so that you can have the environment to have fun, to allow that because that's what's going to make something good and special. And the best ones, I think, I have good, like when you bring that up, I have good memories of doing that scene. With John Voight or whatever, it just like was such a ridiculous situation, Vince Vaughn and
I'm a merman, not a mermaid.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And so, I never want, it's like the same thing as like going to a Knicks game or something. I never want to not enjoy this, that experience, because it really, that's the fun of it, is when you're able to, have those moments and crack each other up. And, so you just want to kind of, I think the challenge is not letting the other stuff get in the way of that, all the sort of like, the stuff you have to do to get to that point.
I think you probably got, your mom and dad are famous, so you used to being around famous people. My question is, who was the most out-of-body experience when you got to work with them for the first time?
I mean, right then when you said that, I just thought of a couple of moments where I didn't even work with people, but I got to meet John Belushi once when I was a kid. And that, like, I remember my parents took me to Dangerfield's comedy club. Rodney Dangerfield had a comedy club in the east side of New York. And it was probably like 1975 or something. And that was the height of John Belushi's fame. And he was at the bar and he said hi to me. And he said, "How you doing?" And I said, "I'm okay." And he said, "You sure you're okay?" And I was like, oh my God, he was really talking to me. I'll always remember that. I mean, working with De Niro was, probably, the first time was as intimidating as it gets, but of course it was helpful for the movie because that was sort of the situation of the movie. But yeah, I mean, working with Ben Kingsley once, that was really fun. I don't know. I mean, it's always exciting to work with people who you're a fan of and kind of get into it with them. And I don't know. Again, like I love that. I never want to stop loving that part of the experience.
So anytime we have actors on the podcast, I ask them this question: have you ever made a movie and in the middle of the movie you're thinking, this is gonna be a shit movie?
And normally we get that reaction too.
I always ask that question because Okay. You don't have to say the movie, but
Right.
you can answer the question.
I don't know what the other answers have been, Charles, but
They
have
always
to say,
laugh like you did, though, Ben. They always laugh like you did.
I mean, I honestly, the disconcerting thing is, and the disturbing thing is, usually when you're in making the movie, you think it's going to be amazing. Usually, always,
Wow.
you just don't know. For me, it's not like, and by the way, I don't mean amazing, like it's going to be like, oh, this is the best thing ever. Just you feel good about it. You feel like you're doing your best work, and so it's always weird when then you see it and you go, oh God, that didn't quite come together. But then, there's so many factors. So, but if you're in it and you feel that, you're in bad shape. If you're in it already when you're making it, then you're going to lose the game.
So a lot of the actors say they make the movie, then somebody takes control of it, and they splice it or cut it the way they want to. And he says, they screwed up, I didn't.
Right. Well, I've directed a lot of the movies that I've been in, so I don't have anybody to blame but myself. And at the end of the day, I've gone into the editing room on movies that I haven't directed as an actor with the director and tried to like say, hey, do this or try this. And I used to do that actually a lot more. And now I try not to do it because I feel like sometimes that can also be hard. It's a creative experience when you're trying to push the director in one way or the other, and you say, no, but I know it'll be funnier this way. And now I feel like I'm getting to a point in my life where it's like I'd rather just have the good experience and not push something so hard to get it to the point where like, okay, we're going to push it and push it and push it just to make it, because sometimes it doesn't make a difference anyway.
You say you're working on a documentary about your mom and dad. So you're probably unearthing a bunch of stuff that you probably forgot, and because they have had amazing careers and things you forgot about. Because I actually learned that we did a documentary on our show last year, and I had forgot half the shit that we had done in 25 years. I was
30, like, 30 years.
Well, you've been here over 30.
Yeah, but it was the inside
Yeah, but I'd only been here like 23 years. But I forgot stuff I did like 23 years ago. So you probably trying to unearth some of the stuff your mom and dad did back in the day. It's probably been like pretty cool for you, correct?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, there's stuff that I'm like also like I'm part of the documentary with my family because it's kind of about how our family has grown up around it. And so I'm looking at stuff that me being interviewed also like 25 years ago. 30 years ago and not remembering it at all, going, oh my God, what was I thinking? Or just I look at my hair, 25, like I show up on the Today Show with this like kind of like spiky hair trying to look like, I don't know what. And, it's hilarious to me. And also, but yeah, with my parents, I'm finding stuff I never even saw before because they did all these interviews. And this is like in the late 60s, early 70s and talk shows. It's interesting. Talk shows in the 70s were so much less sanitized. They were so much less produced. They were just people talking. I feel like podcasts now are kind of the reason people gravitate towards podcasts is because that's what 70s talk shows were back in the day, where people just talked about real stuff. Now you go on a talk show, they want like the 3 or 4 funny stories that are going to, be fun and light and make the audience laugh. But back then people would talk about real stuff. So I have my parents talking about their relationship and problems in their relationship and all these things that were on like the Mike Douglas show or Merv Griffin. But these are, kind of light talk shows, but they're talking about real stuff.
So you've got a holiday movie out there right now. I got Nutcrackers on Hulu right now.
Yes.
So give us in a nutshell.
I like that, Ernie.
Well, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't know. It sounded like our show. It was purely unintentional. But so you've got your nephews, or you got your that you're taking care of over the holidays.
So David Gordon Green, this great director, sent the script to me, and he said, "I'm making this movie, and it's inspired by these 4 kids who I know in Ohio, and they live on a farm, and they're ballet dancers, and we're going to shoot at their farm. And I made up a story where you're the uncle, and their parents have passed away in a car crash, and you have to come take care of them. And I want to do it kind of like an 80s or 90s kind of like comedy, like a throwback comedy." very not cynical, very heartfelt, just kind of like a guy who's sort of living for himself and has to take care of these kids with these real kids who never acted before. And it was so much fun. And we did it like really down and dirty, low budget, but it was, very organic and fun. And they have this house with all these animals, and like they really live with like guinea pigs and cats and goats and hogs running in and out of the house. And it was insane. And it was really fun too.
Hey, and also, Chuckster, you don't play this, and I've played it a couple of times, but I feel like it's a ruptured Achilles waiting to happen.
Pickleball?
Yeah, dink is what you're working on. Dink.
The dink, yeah.
Yeah, the dink. So you just turned 59 last week. Are you a pickleball guy? Are you a tennis player?
I am more of a tennis guy. Yeah. I love tennis. I mean, at this point in my life, the joints, you have to constantly be, watching out and doing rehab and stuff. But when I'm healthy, I love tennis. Pickleball is fun. The movie is kind of a little bit about the tension between tennis and pickleball that's happening right now in the world. Jake Johnson is starring in it. I play his doctor. We got Chloe Feynman. Ed Harris plays his dad, who runs the country club, who's a real hard ass and doesn't like pickleball.
Every time I say I love me some Ed Harris, y'all give me shit on the show. I love me some Ed Harris.
Who doesn't?
Isn't he great? He's amazing. He's amazing.
He is.
Oh my God.
He's on my bucket list. I'm like, I want to meet the great Ed Harris, man. He's amazing.
Yeah, and talk about a guy whose work, like he's the real deal. And what I love about him in this movie is, he hasn't done a lot of comedies, but sometimes serious actors who are great dramatic actors will come to be in a comedy and want to be, quote unquote funny. And he's playing it so straight and so real, which just makes it so much funnier and so much scarier. It's so great. So it's been so much fun to work with him.
Hey, I saw a picture from 10 years ago of you sitting courtside with Taylor Swift. This was before Taylor's? I mean, she was big.
But she took over the world.
Yeah, before she took over the world. Did you see her taking over the world at that point?
To be fair, even 10 years ago, she was a big deal.
Yeah,
you're right. She has gone beyond. But 10 years ago, at that point, my daughter, who at the time was probably 12. Was, just the core demographic. And she was so sweet. I was there with my son, and she recorded a video message for my daughter. And it was a big deal. So back then it was a big deal. But now, she's a phenomenon, and she's so smart, and she's such a great performer. And but even looking back, it's not like, that was, pre Taylor Swift. I feel like she always had that aura around her.
Ben, I want to, number one, thank you for taking the time. I know you got a lot of stuff going on. We'll let you go on this one. It would be a successful season for my Knicks if
they make it to the knockout round.
That's right.
That's going to happen to her. I want to say, let's Eastern Conference Finals. Mm-hmm. I think that's realistic, and it's things have to happen, things have to come together, things have to gel. Health wise, obviously, we need to get Mitchell back, and Precious hopefully soon. But I think we have a chance. I think we have an amazing offensive team, and we can play defense. We just are just having to get the defense going. But this team, obviously, it's Tibbs, right? They know how to play defense. They just have to get both things happening.
Yeah, and I'll leave you with this nugget because you enjoyed so much my explanation of where the Emirates NBA Cup was going. Here's a little nugget you can take to the arena with you tonight. Cat and Brunson, both averaging 25 at this point through 20 games. That's never happened in Knicks history, where two guys were averaging 25 through the first 20 games. That's all I got time for today, folks. That's it.
But Charles, before we go, where are you at with the Knicks? For real?
Actually, believe it or not, I'm not just saying this because you're on the podcast. I'm not a believer in the Cavaliers. I think the Knicks and the Magic are the second and third best teams in the Eastern Conference. That's just my personal opinion. And I think if they get to the conference finals, it'll be a great, great year. But I still think the Celtics are number one. But I think between the Knicks and Orlando, they're the second and third best teams in the East.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, man.
Ben Stiller.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much for
Thanks,
taking
guys.
the time.
Great
We
talking
do
to you.
appreciate it. Thank you much. Have a great one.
All right. Good to see you. Bye-bye.
That was awesome. He's a good dude, and he loves basketball.
Chuck and Ernie in the steam room. Come and join us in the steam room. Chuck and Ernie in the steam room. Leave your towel on in the steam room.
Chuck and Ernie in the steam room. Chuck and Ernie in the steam room. Leave your towel on in the steam room.
Welcome back, everybody. We always conclude with a couple of things, one of those being Chuck's answering machine, the other being a little segment we call Good for the Soul.
Yes.
If you would like to contribute and hope, maybe hear yourself on the pod, the number for your answering machine is
404-987-0330.
very, very good.
Pow! Pow!
Very proud of yourself.
Yes, I am.
Call number one.
Hello, world. This is Charles Barkley. Leave me a message.
Hi, Charles and Ernie. This is Jack from Wales, the country. I've just recently had a baby daughter, and I was just wondering, asking since both of you guys are dads, what age do you think she should be able to decide her own team? I'm a Sixers fan myself, so I don't want her to be part of that process. Thanks for listening to this. I love the show. I love the podcast. All right, thank you.
Love that. A call from Wales.
That's awesome.
And wondering, when's too early or when should you, with your kids, what team should they follow? Should you leave it up to them? Should they root for the team that you root for? How do you handle that, Chuck?
That's a great question. That's a great question because a lot of people force their kids to root for their team. I think you should start out having a root for your team and give them the opportunity to choose when they're old enough to make their own decisions. But I think that's actually a great question.
Yeah, sometimes as a kid,
depending on
you might gravitate toward a particular player, and because of that, you become a fan of that
what
team.
city you're in,
Yeah.
what country you're in. I mean, there are so many different variables. Like when we talked to Ben earlier, I always find it fascinating how people differentiate between the Mets and the Yankees. And I would really love to get an answer to the question.
Yeah, because my dad was and my granddad was. And
Well, because it's got to be the same thing with the Jets and the Giants.
Right.
Like we need to get an expert from New York, and I don't mean dumbass Kenny, because Kenny's not an expert. But I would love to get a New Yorker's opinion on how you pick between the Yankees and the Mets and the Giants and the Jets. That would be a really good segment.
You do that, and let me know how that goes. Next call.
Hey, Chuck. It's Tony from San Diego, and I have a couple questions for you. First, why do you refuse to watch Whiplash? I just saw that it's on Netflix now, easily accessible. It's a great movie, and I'm just wondering if you're not willing to watch it because you have some kind of resentment against Ernie about it. And the second question is, I heard that you had some comments about the LeBron versus MJ debate. I'm wondering why you think it's so clear-cut that MJ had a better career than LeBron.
That's a lot to unpack in one
First
call.
of all, you're 100% correct. I just love messing with Ernie about Whiplash.
See, the man saw J.K. Simmons in the gym at the Four Seasons.
It was like meeting royalty.
And so you said hello to him, correct?
Because I could.
Did you say hello to him?
I did say hello to him.
Okay.
I hated doing it, dude, because I know how celebrities hate to be interrupted when they're working out.
I know, but
he was great.
As soon as that happened, I was like, man, have you watched Whiplash? It's him and Miles Teller. It's unbelievable.
But I do it to annoy you.
And then you've still not watched it. It was nominated for best film.
Yeah, but it annoys you.
It does annoy me.
I know.
So just to annoy me, you're not going to watch Whiplash.
100. Keeping it 100, Chuck.
Okay.
That.
Now,
and there's another one too. Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, I don't care if you watch that or not.
Okay. I thought you did. You asked me if I didn't watch that one.
No.
But the whiplash, I do that 100% to annoy you.
Yeah.
And
well, you're just shortchanging yourself.
And I love J.K. Rowlings. I'm just not Simmons, J.K. Simmons. I do, but I do that just to annoy you. Hey, my man, I was kind of shocked the other night when Ernie said the stat. I don't get into the debate between Michael and LeBron because I think it's weak journalism when guys on television and radio trying to get fools to call in to argue. They're both great. Michael Jordan's the best basketball player I ever played against. These young kids, they played against LeBron, but I was kind of caught off guard last week when Ernie said
he was only like 3 behind him in 30-point games or something like that.
And I was like, and he's played like 7 more years? That's an astonishing stat. As great as LeBron is, he's still behind Michael Jordan in 30-point games, and he's played 7 more seasons. That is astonishing. Even if you think LeBron's the GOAT, you wouldn't have known that. And I'm never going to say anything bad about LeBron because he's an amazing man and a hell of a player. But that when Ernie said that, because Ernie knows more useless stuff than anybody in the world.
Thanks, Chuck.
You're welcome. Got to get you on Jeopardy.
Next call.
Hello, Chuck. This is Addie from Hawaii, loyal steamer, first-time caller. Frustrated about the comments about candles. I don't know about this manly thing. They got ones that are scented like beer, like bacon, even Krispy Kreme. So I don't know if you want to try that.
Man,
that's taken on a life of its own, this whole candle thing.
All I said was
that a man can't buy a candle, a scented candle. That's what she said.
Women take baths and use candles. A man does not buy a candle to take a bath. I stick by that. I don't care if it's like beer, Dunkin' Donut.
So you're saying the two go hand in hand?
Yes.
You can't put how about a scented candle in another room? It has nothing to do with a bath.
I don't do that at all. I'll just spray some air freshener. I don't put Ernie. They can't. A dude is not out buying candles. The only time I've seen.
Where'd you get your? Okay, what kind of air freshener are you using?
Microban. You know I love me some Microban. They got the fresh linen and the citrus. Yeah, Microban.
So it's not like you're against fresh smells and nice scents.
Oh, I love fresh. You know I'm a clean fanatic.
Yeah.
I'm really into fresh scents and things like that. But I'm not going to light a candle.
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
I'm a dude.
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
If I see, let me just tell you something. If I see a big old dude taking a bath and got a bunch of candles around the bathtub, I'm going to slap the hell out of him right on the spot. Right on the spot.
I wonder why you were there. Next call.
Right.
Hey, Mr. Barkley. I'm hoping you're on the show in the steam room with Mr. Johnson, and I just had a question for you as a young man. What is 3 pieces of life advice each of you would give to yourselves in your 20s? I appreciate everything you guys have done, and I love the show.
That's a
great
deep
question.
one. That's deep, and that requires a lot of thought in a short time. 3 things you would have told yourself in your 20s. What? Because as a result of what you know now, that you're in your 60s.
Never be insecure.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah, don't sweat the small. Never be insecure. What I mean by that is don't waste too much time about what other people think of you. You're insecure if you're worried about what everybody else thinks about you.
Speak your mind.
Speak your mind. I think that's really important. I think hard work is really important because you cannot be successful without hard work. Nobody is successful without hard work.
Be yourself.
Yeah.
Be yourself is another one. I mean, we're just kind of throwing out things that I would tell be yourself. And don't try to mold yourself into what you think somebody expects of you. Be yourself. That's who you are.
If people talking about you behind your back, don't worry about it. You're already ahead of them. Yes, that's nice right there.
I like that.
That's right.
That's good. That's very helpful.
I'm going to put that on a Hallmark card.
Speaking of Hallmark, do you like those Hallmark Christmas movies? You ever watch one?
Ernie, I'm a dude.
Have you ever watched a Hallmark Christmas movie?
Dude, I'm a dude.
Okay, I'm just asking.
No.
I torture Cheryl Ann with those.
Are you serious?
Yes.
You are so white.
I'm not that I'm watching them. It's just I know where to find them. And she is like, oh,
Ernie,
it just killed her.
That is so white.
So I will put one on, like I know she's going to be in a certain room. I'll stick one on so she walks in.
You trying to torture the lady?
Yes, I am.
You're so white
With
sometimes.
Hallmark. Hey, remember what they were going to ask me on that Zoom?
That's right. Just
what was it like growing up in the South as a biracial child? And I said, you might want to alter that question. Not.
I said the whitest guy we know. People think he's biracial.
So
that's hilarious.
And now we've reached.
Oh, this is good. This is gonna be good
for the soul.
This is gonna be good.
EJ is good for the soul.
I think that would be a great way to end the show.
Love that idea.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town.
All right, so Thanksgiving, another Thanksgiving has come and gone, and it was just a wonderful time for the Johnson family. And so,
how many freeloaders did you have over?
We had 40 folks.
Damn,
we had 40 folks at our house.
Oof.
I believe we have a photo. Or first, hey, there's the deep fried turkey with me and Cheryl Ann.
That is abuse right there.
What?
Why you got her no gloves? She gonna get burned up, and you all.
No, because she was just taking the temperature right there.
The woman need gloves.
She was taking the temperature. No,
why
she
are
doesn't.
You all bundled up.
I just
Huckleberry Finn.
Hey, because I got to put. You have grease splattering around. So you need
she don't have on gloves.
I know. The turkey is out of the grease at that point. She's just sticking the thermometer in there. Here we all are gathered around the back patio, all 40 of us.
Wait, you had more than one turkey, right?
Deep fried 2. Cheryl did one in the oven. So we had 3 turkeys.
Okay.
Everybody brought stuff. 40 brothers and sisters and sons and daughters and grandkids and cousins.
Why do people only get together as a family on Thanksgiving?
I think sometimes because of scheduling and because the busyness of life, and then Thanksgiving provides that window of a few days where you know what, and you kind of gear yourself toward, hey, I'm going to make sure that I'm there. And it's good, like where we are, everybody's in the state basically. Well, Carmen comes from Tennessee, and
we need to do a better job of that.
We should have more than one Thanksgiving.
We should have more than one, like another holiday where you just get together and celebrate family.
Yeah, because you've got Thanksgiving and Christmas back to back right there.
But you're all over the place for Christmas because you got to be with your kids and give them gifts and everything.
But I think more than one Thanksgiving. Remember what we did a few years ago?
That narrows it down.
A few years ago, we did something on social media, Thanksgiving in May, which was halfway between Thanksgiving one year and the next. And I had people on social just text, just post, what are you thankful for? And it was great. And
we should do that.
We had a wonderful time. Remember Manny Ohomie came down?
Oh, yeah.
And gave out shoes. And
what a
kind
good
of thing.
dude, man.
Yeah, very good. So there you go. That's
Samaritan feet, right?
Samaritan's feet.
Yeah.
So that's good for the soul. And here's another thing. And somebody brought this up the other day. If you're going to call Chuck's answering machine with a question, also use that number. If you've got an idea of something that's good for the soul, or you have a story to relate that's good for the soul, let's use that too. Because sometimes, we like to hear from somebody else who's experienced something that's been good for the soul. And you know what else was good for the soul on Thanksgiving for me? And I'll close with this. So we have everybody's like in the kitchen just before we eat. And we got in the kitchen, a little bit in the sunroom. We got people that's kind of making this chain. Everybody's grabbing a hand to say a blessing. And as we start, I said, before we do the blessing, let's just count off and see how many folks we got in here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it gets to me, and it's 32, which was my dad's number, which is always special in our family. We love the number 32. So it was just funny the way that worked out, where they started and came to the 31, 32.
Wow.
It's sometimes you just get a little wink like that. Sometimes God just looks down on you and winks and says, hey, Y'all have a great day. And I hope you all have a great day, too.
Thanks for being loyal steamers.
And see us next week. And again, you got an idea for a story that is good for the soul? Use that Chuck's answering machine, and maybe it'll be part of the show next week. I have a feeling it will be.
Yes.